Welcome to the Alaska Weather Show. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan, coming to you on this Friday, April 22nd, Earth Day 2022. And if you'd like additional weather information on top of what I provide, you can go to weather.gov online. It is the National Weather Service primarily homepage whereby you can go and find forecasts, watch warnings, advisories for anywhere in the country. I'm looking right now at a map of the continental U.S. with Alaska and Hawaii off to the lower left. A lot of action going on in the middle of the country, the east slope of the Rockies up through the plains. We have blizzard warnings out through parts of northeast Wyoming, eastern Montana, western Dakotas. High wind warnings throughout the central down into the southern plains into New Mexico. Even the threat of severe weather, severe thunderstorms from portions of South Dakota all the way down into West Texas. Rather active weather pattern there. And as I mentioned, you can get weather information for anywhere in the country anytime. All over the course of our weekend, we are looking for a couple of low pressure systems, one in the lower Gulf that's going to kind of ride along the North Pacific there, and another one way out in the western Aleutians later on this weekend. That's about it. Pretty quiet. It'll be breezy with maybe a half inch across the northern Gulf Coast, northern Panhandle, with as much as 2 inches of rain could fall in portions of the southern Panhandle, especially down around Ketchikan and Craig. If we look at a total for Saturday and Sunday. We've been watching all week long an active sunspot group that has rotated now to the point it's Earth directed, but so far it has not popped off any significant coronal mass ejections that are heading toward Earth, so that really does not help our cause for any significant geomagnetic storms or seeing some late season bright auroras, because our aurora viewing season is winding down here as we get through the end of this month and the beginning of May. Simply too much daylight, and with that increasing daylight, we're seeing our temperatures gradually warm, though it has been a cool warm up so far this April. Latest extended outlook is calling for temperatures to average above normal across much of the southwestern portion of the state here as we go through the very end of this month into early May. And of course, today is Earth Day. We are celebrating the 52nd anniversary. The first Earth Day celebration was held in 1970 on this date. And so again, it's a day we just kind of be aware of the Earth, the significance of our home, do things to help protect it, because it's the only place we have. And it's a beautiful blue orb there with the clouds. That's an image taken from the GO 17 satellite image a few years back. Nevertheless, I hope you're having a great Earth Day. And speaking of, as I mentioned, even though we have an Earth-directed active sunspot group, there have been no real significant disruptions or CMEs heading right toward us, so we're not anticipating any bright aurora displays this weekend. Last quarter moon is tomorrow, Saturday, April 23rd. New moon will be a week later, Saturday, April 30th. And mark down on your calendar, the full flower moon of May will also feature a total lunar eclipse that will be visible across much of North America on May 15th. Looking at the FAA webcams this afternoon, way up there on the north slope near the Arctic coast, mostly sunny, 5 above. As we drop further south and west, Hooper Bay is seeing an increase in cloud cover, a trough of low pressure there through the lower Yukon Delta is going to bring more clouds and perhaps a few light rain snow showers. Temperature this afternoon, early afternoon, 38. Further toward the east, Homer is seeing some passing light rain showers, a temperature at 45 degrees, and as a frontal band lifts northward up through the Gulf there to along the Gulf Coast in through the Panhandle, it's going to bring some rain to coastal areas and then snow in the coastal mountains. Ketchikan right now seeing mostly cloudy skies, temperatures in the 50s. Yesterday, Klawak did hit 60 degrees, so it's a little milder there in the southern Panhandle, but they could pick up as much as 2 inches of rain total for Saturday and Sunday with that system, in especially the Ketchikan area. And we are now in the River Watch season. The breakup so far has really not happened. It's been a very cool start to April, so as a result, even though we get temperatures above freezing during the daytime, it gets near or below freezing at night, so that has really slowed down the melting process. But over the next week or two, we're going to start to see some warmer temperatures develop, which will help expedite the melting. And that, as a result, will lead to more of a breakup happening. And we need your spotter reports, any pictures or video, and you can certainly submit those to nws.ar.aprfc@noaa.gov. That's the River Forecast Center, or if it's something of a more urgent nature, you could even call 800-847-1739. But so far, things are pretty quiet on the river breakup front, simply because it's been a cool month of April, and things have just kind of been slow to warm. Looking at the satellite imagery, though, we do have a low pressure system south of the Alaska Peninsula and south of Kodiak Island. This feature will continue working its way eastward over the weekend, just staying south, just south of the Gulf, but it is going to fling an occluded front up along the northern Gulf Coast up into the Panhandle, bringing with it some rain and then snow to the higher elevations of the coastal mountains. Back to the west, there is an approaching frontal system way west of Shimei on the left side of your screen. That's with the next low pressure out there that will impact the western half of the Aleutians, but not until really Sunday and into Sunday night, Monday. Here's the low today, located there south of the Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island, with a occluded front wrapped around it. A trough of low pressure up through at least the Alaska Range, southwest interior. A few very light rain snow showers on the north side of this, but a more substantial band of rain will be working its way into portions of the Panhandle as we go through Saturday and Sunday. Up into the north, the weak high pressure ridge continues across northern parts of the state. That's where the coldest temperatures will remain, especially along the Brooks Range as well as the North Slope and Arctic coast. Later tonight into early Saturday morning, the low will be located south of Kodiak Island, and that occluded front will be approaching at least the outer Panhandle coast, pushing into Haida Gwaii, and we expect mainly rain showers there in through the Panhandle. Some of those could be a little moderate to a little heavier there across the southern portions of the Panhandle Sunday into Monday. The low will just slowly ride eastward just south of the central Gulf, and it will gradually weaken through the course of the weekend as the low further back off toward the west and through the western Aleutians will be the little stronger system down to about 978 millibars there off the Kamchatka coast, with an occluded front pushing eastward in through the central Aleutians by Sunday afternoon. Still some weak troughiness lagging along the interior of the British Columbia Panhandle area, back up into eastern Alaska Range, and then back across the southwest interior. There could be a few very light rain showers in the lower elevations, and then of course some snow showers in the higher elevations. Looking at temperatures, lows generally 30s to near 40 in the Panhandle, 30s, mid 30s or so elsewhere and through the south central. Temperatures will be kept down a bit in the Panhandle on Saturday due to cloud cover and the precipitation, 40s to near 50. Anchorage could be up near 50 Saturday, so could Talkeetna. Some areas 55 at McGrath. Otherwise, 40s along the Gulf Coast due to cloud cover and light precipitation. Sunday morning, lows generally above freezing with the exception of maybe Copper River Basin, and then temperatures on Sunday afternoon could get back up into the lower 50s there in a good chunk of the Panhandle, as well as around Anchorage and certainly Talkeetna and McGrath. Far north, readings will be single digits above zero along the Arctic coast, 20s along the Yukon Valley, and Saturday afternoon a little warmer temperatures. They'll see a few 50s along and south of the Yukon River, just downslope there of the Alaska Range. Sunday morning lows still a few single digits just above zero there along the central eastern Arctic coast. Below freezing in the interior, and afternoon highs should warm back up, though in a number of spots low, maybe even a few isolated 50-degree readings from around Galena, McGrath, eastward up toward the Alcan border. The southwest will have lows generally near or a bit above freezing where there is cloud cover extending out through the Aleutian chain. As we get up the Kuskokwim and Yukon River valleys, some lower 50s likely. And then Sunday morning temperatures generally will be near freezing there in the interior. a bit above freezing, mid, maybe even upper 30s down along the Alaska Peninsula into the Aleutians. And then we do see some 40s, especially in the interior, 40s to lower 50s, 30s along the southwest coast, a bit cooler. But the extended forecast, April 28th through May 1st, above normal temperatures, a great likelihood there in the southwest, centered on Bethel. And as we go into April 30th through May 6th, it continues in the same areas, the west side of the state, especially warmer temperatures centered on the southwest. So that's going to accelerate the snow melt and the river breakup as we go through the next couple of weeks. Above normal precipitation also possible in the southwest and west. And also, again, looking April 30th through May 6th, we could still see precipitation average a bit above normal across the southwest from Kotzebue Sound to lower Cook Inlet.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Well, it's now time for your flying weather. And if you do have a flight planned either Saturday or Sunday, the main weather feature will be an area of low pressure well south of Kodiak Island, kind of just south of the Gulf North Pacific interface. This feature will slowly work its way eastward through the course of the weekend and gradually weaken, but it will send a gale force frontal band up along the northern Gulf Coast into the outer Panhandle. With that, we expect some wind turbulence as well as areas of some moderate precipitation and perhaps some icing associated with that. Back to the west. Trough of low pressure will extend northwestward along the southwest coast into eastern Russia, keeping IFR conditions going in those areas as well. Saturday afternoon, we expect IFR along the northwest coast, down between St. Lawrence and the lower Yukon Delta through Nunavik Island, north side of the Alaska Peninsula, and then a broad area of IFR conditions there through the western half of the Aleutians, as well as much of the Gulf. Sunday morning, we expect IFR conditions to expand there. Parts of the North Slope, western Brooks Range down across the Seward Peninsula, southwest, even up into the lower southwest interior, and out across the Gulf, and again the western half of the Aleutians. There will be another area of low pressure working its way through the western half of the Aleutians, with a frontal system working its way eastward through the central and eastern Aleutians later this weekend. Still, though, IFR conditions along areas of the North Slope, Seward Peninsula into the southwest Sunday afternoon, and then generally IFR conditions out over the open waters there of the Gulf. Up in the mainland of the state, northern areas, expect VFR conditions, Anaktuvuk as well as Adigan Pass. And as we fly further south, you'll encounter maybe a little MVFR conditions in the morning on the west arm there of the Alaska Range around Lake Clark and Merrill, giving way to VFR conditions later in the morning and afternoon. Same thing at Rainy Pass, MVFR early becoming VFR. And then rounding through the central and eastern Alaskan Range, we expect VFR conditions not only at Windy Pass, but extending eastward through Isabel and Mentasta passes. And then across the Copper River Basin, VFR conditions, and Tanita Pass, we expect VFR conditions there throughout Saturday. Coming down, though, toward Portage Pass, with that frontal band lifting northward up there through the northern Gulf, we expect IFR conditions there, especially as you get out toward Prince William Sound. But overall through Portage Pass, MVFR conditions with VFR conditions there, especially just west there of the west entrance. And for areas of the Panhandle, the far north, Chilkoot and White may start out MVFR, giving way to VFR conditions later in the morning and afternoon. Freezing levels, the surface freezing line there in the morning will run from along the inner channels of the Panhandle, northern Gulf, across the Kenai Peninsula, and then coming up through the Kuskokwim River Basin and then back down across the central Bering Sea. We see a bump of freezing levels upwards to 2,000 feet there around the Panhandle, 4,000 feet south end of Haida Gwaii. Could be a pocket of above 2,000 foot freezing levels there through the Yukon River Valley, especially as we go through the day, and then back out toward the west to 4,000 foot bump in the freezing levels as a result of that low in the western Aleutians and a frontal system working its way eastward into the central Aleutians. Greatest threat for icing will be associated with the frontal band, the gale force frontal band that works its way up into along the Gulf Coast, east side of the Kenai through lower Prince William Sound, all the way out through the outer areas of the Panhandle and in between Haida Gwaii and British Columbia coast, 6 to 16,000 feet will be the greatest threat of some considerable moderate icing. We can see at the upper levels, jet stream level, a low pressure circulation there just kind of south of the Gulf, and then high pressure along the Alcan border there in the northeast, bringing it down to 9,000 feet. We see some of those stronger winds working their way, southwest winds coming into British Columbia, and south-southwest winds there through the Panhandle with that low circulation just south of the Gulf. 3,000 feet, you see those stronger winds, 50 upwards to 60 knots. Could be some strong turbulence there in the vicinity of Hecate Strait there between Haida Gwaii and the British Columbia coast, where again there could be some isolated severe turbulence, surface to 5,000 feet, along with some low-level wind shear there along areas of the Panhandle and northern Gulf associated with that frontal band. And then back out to the west, we could see an area of moderate turbulence there, eastern Aleutians, and back out toward the far western Aleutians, generally between the surface and 3,000 feet.
So my heart is definitely racing. I don't know about anyone else's. This is the stuff nerds dream of.
10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6,
It's gonna
5,
happen.
4, 3, 2.
That countdown you just heard? We'll get back to that in a minute. Last episode, we saw the epic launch of ICESat-2, NASA's newest state-of-the-art ice-observing satellite. But now that that's in orbit, the pressure to deliver results is on.
Between launch and, the first ground returns, took 17, 18 days or something like this. It's a time when you're quite nervous.
9 years ago, Dr. Torsten Marcus took over as the lead project scientist for ICESat-2 during a time when the mission needed a champion.
You start fighting for a mission over, for 9 years now.
So when ICESat-2 was turned on for the first time 18 days after it was launched, only then would the science team know if the whole thing had worked. And it did.
First of all, it's kind of emotional, right? Being here, ICESat-2 was developing for 9-10 years. Rocket scientist, you live the mission, right?
If it sounds like there's a lot of noise in the background, that's because Torsten is being interviewed from a plane 1,500 feet in the air. IceBridge was tasked with the job of bridging the data between the end of ICESat's mission and the beginning of ICESat-2, about a 9-year difference.
The goal is that it would run until ICESat-2 launched and then would have overlap with ICESat-2 as well, so we can get a really long, well-calibrated time series from IceBridge.
As the deputy project scientist for Operation IceBridge, Brick works closely with Torsten to make sure the two missions are syncing up.
The timing was everything during that mission, which was a real challenge because not only do we need to...
Basically what you need to take away is getting an airplane and a satellite in space to fly over the same flight path at the same time and collect matching data is really, really hard. IceBridge was tasked with two objectives: check the accuracy of ICESat-2's data over land ice and over sea ice. They were able to lock in the land ice data fairly quickly in the mission, but the sea ice data...
It was really tricky. We waited day after day. Do we fly the sea ice? It's still on our list.
7, 6,
It's gonna
5,
happen.
4, 3, 2, 1. Mark on the overpass 0435, 35 Zulu.
Here's what just happened. A plane 1,500 feet up and a satellite 308 miles up measured the same sea ice at the same time. This moment finally linked veteran mission Operation IceBridge's data to that of its new sister mission, ICESat-2. Two projects that, until now, were separate for nearly 10 years.
It's a very satisfying feeling because you do something that is meaningful and in the bigger picture, and yeah, it's very satisfying.
Our search for knowledge doesn't end here. Grace Follow-On and ICESat-2, the two satellite missions that launched this year, will continue to bring in incredible data for the foreseeable future. The steady drumbeat of campaigns in the field goes on, but most of all, the people who look for answers will never stop searching. And from our perspective, it's pretty clear why. What is your favorite planet in the solar system?
My favorite planet is the planet Earth.
What? Earth? Really?
The Earth, obviously.
Favorite planet in the solar system? Earth, right? We live on it. It's a really important one.
Favorite planet is Earth.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Why?
when you look out at the other planets, they're absolutely fascinating. They've got all sorts of interesting systems going on. They've got dust storms. But then when you're on another planet, looking back at Earth, I mean, it's just incredible.
Whenever you go in different places, it looks so different, so amazing. It's just, I love planet Earth. It's just a very special planet. This is our home.
We've seen things far beyond the solar system. But even with all that, even the amazing things we've seen, one of the most amazing is the Earth itself.
It's got to be Earth. It's got to be Earth.
It's got to be here. I like the polar regions up here of Earth. Yeah, sorry. It's very boring.
Earth is good.
Earth is good.
We live here, it sustains our life.
I'm not going to turn my back on it.
It's got water, it's got ice, it's got vegetation. I mean, it's rich with life. And so studying Earth is a very, very rewarding career. And I think if we were on any other planet, we would be trying to get to Earth as quickly as we could.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back, and we conclude our show with a marine weather segment looking at the sea ice edge. We start out with the southwest coast and through much of the Bering Sea. The main feature to take away is that the ice is in full retreat. We're seeing a lot of melting now, a lot of areas breaking up, opening up, so certainly exercise much caution if you're going to be venturing out on the ice. We still have shore ice in place along areas of the southwest coast. As we go further north along the Arctic coast, a lot of ice is in place along the Arctic and northwest coast, with a few plinias that have opened up, especially a larger area there west of Kotzebue Sound and in and surrounding areas, especially around St. Lawrence Island, the east side of Russia. And we can only expect with the increasing amount of daylight and gradual warm-up that we are anticipating here through the end of the month into early May that this ice melt will further accelerate. Across the Panhandle, we are anticipating winds out of the north 10 to 20 knots, maybe some gusts as high as 35 knots there around Petersburg. Waves 2 to 4 feet, could be as high as 11 feet down there toward Dixon Entrance, with southeasterly winds to 30 knots. The outer Gulf Coast, look for southeasterly winds, generally 25 to 30 knots, waves in the 13 to 15 foot range. Come Sunday, winds will be northerly across the northern half there of the inner channels, 10 to 15 knots, waves 2 to 3 feet. Southeasterly 20 knots, Dixon Entrance, waves 6 feet, and then along the outer Gulf Coast, south to southeast winds around 20 knots, waves 10 to 12 feet. Back through the northwest Gulf, we'll have that frontal band lifting northward and kind of washing out as well, but ahead of it, look for easterly winds 20 to 25 knots, waves around 4 feet, Prince William Sound as high as 10 to 12 feet in the open waters of the Gulf off of the Kenai, and generally northeasterly winds to 20 knots and waves running 4 or 5 feet along the length there of Cook Inlet. As far as by Sunday, look for winds to shift westerly around 10 to 15 knots across Cook Inlet, with waves 2 to as high as 4 feet toward the entrance. Otherwise, winds will be more northerly off of the Kenai coast at 20 knots and waves 8-9 feet there. And then on Saturday for Kodiak Island, northeasterly winds 25 knots, Shelikof Strait waves 7 feet up to 12 feet off of the coast there of Kodiak Island, as well as off of the Alaska Peninsula. Winds will turn more northwesterly, 20 to 25 knots as you get down there toward the southern half of the peninsula, with waves 4 feet there north of Cold Bay and maybe as high as 10 feet southeast of False Pass. For Sunday, winds will turn more out of the west from Shelikof Strait down across as we go into north of Cold Bay and up toward Bristol Bay at 15 to 20 knots, and waves generally 4 feet there from Bristol Bay to north of Cold Bay, but still running about 7 to 8 feet on the North Pacific side. The eastern Aleutians will see winds from the east, rather out of the northwest, around 25 to 30 knots, with waves running 8 to 10 feet. They'll eventually turn more southerly, 20 to 25 knots west of Adak, with waves of 6 to 8 feet. And then on Sunday, low pressure will be passing to the west and northwest of Shemya, and ahead of it, winds will be southwesterly 30-35 knots across the central and western Aleutians, waves generally 12 to 16 feet. Eastern Aleutians will still see southwest winds around 25 knots and waves 7 feet there near Dutch Harbor, maybe as much as 10 feet there just west of Nikolsky. Along the southwest coast, winds will be northeasterly out of Norton Sound around 10 knots, turning northerly and then northwesterly, Nunavik Island back toward St. Paul and St. George at 15 to 20 knots, waves 3 to maybe as much as 5 feet where there is any open water. And then Sunday, winds come down to just 5 knots out of the northeast, out of Norton Sound. Northwesterly 15 knots south of St. Lawrence to the north side of Nunavik Island. Easterly 35 knots there at St. Matthew, and southerly 25 knots at St. Paul. And then along the Arctic coast, winds relatively light, westerly around 5 knots with the ice in place. Not a whole lot of movement, turning to the northeast and then north through the Bering Strait around 10 knots. And on Sunday, region-wide across the Arctic coast, 10-knot winds out of the east, turning northeasterly to northerly through the Bering Strait at 10 to 15 knots. And at this point, we're not anticipating a whole lot of ice movement. But as I mentioned, we are now in full retreat there up through the Bering Sea, so continue to watch for more ice to melt in the days ahead.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.